This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome in. After a week off because of a trip to Vegas, which was, listen, here's the thing. I was going to save this for the third segment, but I feel like Pierre's going to need to get this out of his system now. And Garrett, please jump in here, okay, because you can fill in some details. Pierre, I'm just going to tell you, as a Vegas trip goes, this one was the most uneventful you could possibly imagine. Okay. Garrett, did you set foot in a casino the entire time we were there? We were there for 72 hours.
No, the closest would have been the airport.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So we flew in. We landed at 7:00 a.m. Vegas time. So I would like you to do the math and let us know what time you think we left Waco to get to Austin on Monday morning.
You landed in Vegas at 7 a.m.?
Vegas time.
Let's see. So that means, you left Waco to get to Austin. That probably puts you probably had to get up at around in between 3:30 and 4 in the morning.
No, try 2:00 in the morning.
What?
Yeah, wow. 2:00 in the morning. We left at 3 o'clock, left Waco at 3 o'clock in the morning to get there.
Wow.
Went through, it was so weird because it was an absolute zoo at baggage check-in. It was nuts.
In Austin, at ATX?
In Austin. Crazy, yeah. At Bergstrom. And then we, go into security and there's, nothing. It was well, where'd all these people go? We were fighting, elbowing people to get in. By the time we got to Vegas on Monday, we were all cooked by the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
So they stayed at Airbnb. I stayed at the Bellagio.
Right.
Do you know what I did on Monday night? I ordered room service and I watched the Beverly Hills Cop 4.
I was just about to, which I also watched over the weekend, by the way.
It's great.
Very much. I enjoyed it very much. I was the moment in the first 5 minutes of the movie where we saw, Axel driving around Detroit with all the old music. I said, "That's it. This movie's fantastic already. Yeah. It's amazing. I love it."
It made me forget the third one altogether, which wasn't very good. Yeah.
Which they also poked fun at a little bit in their own right. Yeah. In the movie, if you caught that, yes.
Yeah, they're let's not talk about. Let's the way they said, let's not even talk about 1994 or whatever. Let's not even talk about that. But so that's what I did. So Tuesday night, we wanted to go see our bartender again at the Mob Museum. Well, hell if it's not his only night off of the week. Tuesday night, so we still had a nice old-fashioned and a Manhattan. I did, and then we walked down Fremont Street, saw downtown. I'd never really done that before. I'm more of a strip guy, but Garrett wanted to see that. Plus, there was a facility that he needed to visit. I say he, but we both bought stuff there.
My services were definitely needed.
Yeah, so. Wait,
what? I have to know though. What do you think of Fremont's changed a little bit?
It needs some outside investment. I think
it's coming. I mean, did you walk into Circa though, the new hotel down there in Fremont?
No, we did not. Circa's apparently it's got the largest sports book and all that stuff. So,
it's a sight to behold.
Yeah, is that where you're going to stay the next time?
I might consider it. Fremont's. I like the overhead lights when you walk in, Fremont, the video board overhead of you. That's pretty cool. But still, when you're walking about Fremont, you'll as much as they're trying to reboot it, you'll still see some things that I'm just kind of meh. Meh.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. So it's they need to clean up downtown. Which I think eventually downtown will be an old school looking version of the Strip. Like they'll kind of move the old Strip to downtown, and that's what it'll do. Like because they gotta. That's the only way they can grow out. I know that it's funny. I know you're a big Oakland A's fan, right?
Yes, I
am. Which you'll be a Las Vegas A's fan. You're not gonna drop the team just because they moved.
Yes, I will. I will abandon the team if they move.
You will? You're done with them?
The plan is to completely abandon and pull out entirely and be technically a baseball free agent. I won't say I'll be done with the sport because how can I be? But no, I will be pulling rank. I'll be pulling anchor.
So one Uber driver I had was very mad about they're building the stadium on the side of the old Tropicana.
Correct.
So the Trop is it's half torn apart right now, and it'll in a few months I'm sure we'll get a really cool video of it getting totally demolished and blown up and all that stuff. But right now, like the facade of the building's gone, like the parking lot's been raised. It's right across the street from the Bellagio, so I saw it, every day on the way to the stadium. Right. But they had downtown the Las Vegas 51's site that they're gonna be playing in anyway. Apparently, as they're itinerant after next year it starts. They're like, we're going to play in Vegas and we're going to play in Arizona and we're going to play in all these other places until their new stadium is built. So
playing in Sacramento next year.
Sacramento. Sacramento, like they're Sacramento next year. Yeah. And then like the year after that, they're going to move to like the Vegas minor league complex. And then the year after that, I guess it should be done. Like that's the plan.
I think that sounds about right in terms of the timeline. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll abandon them. So should people send us in reasons that you should jump aboard their favorite team, or will you come about that naturally where you find a player that you like when you're a kid, you kind of get your favorite team based on a couple things. Are you able to go to a bunch of games of a certain team? Do you really like a certain player, or what where you live exactly, and then or like where your parents or people are fans of?
The one thing people can try to recruit me if they would like. I mean, if people want to submit a recruitment pitch to the show and you have you read it out loud, I'm open to listening to options and offers. But the one thing, I haven't made a decision on that yet. One thing I can tell you is the city of San Diego has always been my favorite city in the country.
Okay.
I have no ties or no reason to jump aboard as a Padres fan. I mean, that sounds like I've already been miserable enough. Yeah. Paul. Like, I don't know why I would do that to myself. However, it is my favorite city in the country. One thing I guarantee you will not happen. This is the only thing I write it in stone, will not happen. I will not. People might think, oh, well, you're an A's fan, so it might be easy to jump over to the Giants. No, I hope that franchise falls into the ocean. I hate them. I hate them passionately. They're one of the reasons why the A's are leaving the Bay Area. They could have helped prevent this, and they chose not to. So I hope they fall into the ocean only to never recover.
Okay, so here's the thing. You have the proper amount of anger to be a Yankees or Red Sox fan, but that's a kind of front running, and that's not really your personality.
No,
so it's like to leave the A's behind and go to teams that have a bunch of World Series. So that kind of eliminates the Cardinals, right off the top too. They've got a lot of World Series. I'm trying when I was a kid, my first baseball team, I played 2 years for the Braves. So I always had a little soft spot for the Braves because of that, just because I played for them when I was a child. I played for the A's. I never had a soft spot. And the Reds, still no soft spot.
For me, it's like I'm 40 years old now. Like, it's going to be hard to try to convince me to be like I brought up, like, if I said, I could probably be a t-shirt fan of the Padres because I love going to San Diego. I never need an excuse to go down to San Diego. But it's just like, if the Padres are on Sunday Night Baseball, would I really sit down to watch them play the Dodgers? I'd be like, I don't know if I see it happening.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Did you feel like chastising Garrett and I for not making the most of our Vegas trip?
Are
you not mad but disappointed?
No, I'm only a little disappointed that we don't have stories to tell from the most recent trip. That's my only disappointment. I understand you're there on business. People go there on business.
Yeah.
You know, I was supposed to be in Las Vegas Summer League, which I normally am at every year to watch NBA Summer League. However, I do have a trip to Japan planned for next month, so I had to cut finances somewhere, and unfortunately, I couldn't be in Vegas at the same time.
What you're about to experience in Japan?
What's that?
Bidets everywhere, my friend. Bidets everywhere.
Can't wait. Yeah.
Just what I want for this country is going to be on my platform. So, Catalina 2028. I think it's a little too late for now, although I don't think anybody would stand in my way if I wanted to get on the ballot.
Trey Parker and Matt Stone loved the Japanese toilet so much they made an episode of South Park about it.
Yes.
They love it that much.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. But you're going to get lots of bidets and Japanese toilets, and you're going to come back and be like, well, we're disgusting in America. We're disgusting.
Yeah, correct. I have a feeling I will say exactly that.
Yeah, we're disgusting. So, I will say this. So in reference to the Vegas Summer League, and the Olympic team was there until they just got to Abu Dhabi a couple days ago, right. Have you seen the video of the entrance of the Olympic team into the facility?
I don't think was that from today?
It was from yesterday.
No, I have not seen that.
Oh my gosh. So they're all walking in and like some of them are taking video of it and they've got, people playing music, but like every player reacted to it differently. Like some were like, "Oh, this is neat." LeBron and Anthony Davis could not have looked more confused about anything they'd ever seen in their entire life. Like it's like they walked in and there was like a math problem, like a really complex Big Bang Theory like math problem on the board outside of you because they were like, what in the world? They had no
I gotta go
idea.
find this now.
Yeah.
I gotta go find it's funny that you bring that up because I was like, the moment you brought that up, I said, oh, I forgot to flip that game on because they were playing the Australians a couple hours ago and I forgot to flip that game on.
Yeah. So, but on Tuesday night, when I went back to the Bellagio, I was walking back to my room through the casino and I did come across Mark Few, Steve Kerr, and Eric Spoelstra. And I mean, they kept walking. I try to pretend like I'm also in the sports world like they are, but they, didn't acknowledge me. Apparently not fans of 365 Sports yet, which I find disappointing.
Agreed.
Yeah, I find disappointing in a lot of ways. So
is it bad that when you say you were walking through the casino, like it's like a movie. I can visually first person view. I know exactly where you're going through the Bellagio. I've been through that hotel many, many times. So I don't know if that's bad, but
yeah,
I've got a first person view of it. By the way, my only wish is if you would have passed Mark Few and Steve Kerr and Eric Spoelstra, maybe you could have like rubbed elbows with Spoelstra and be like, how are you not the head coach? Because he should be the head coach. He should be the head coach of Team USA basketball, in my opinion.
So you don't think Steve Kerr should be?
No, I think Eric Spoelstra should absolutely be the head coach of Team USA basketball. I've always found him to be a better coach. I think he's probably, and I don't say this very often about NBA coaches because you've heard me say this time and again. The NBA is unlike any other professional sports league.
Aren't you a Warriors fan?
No, I'm a Kings fan.
Or Kings? Oh, that's all. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yep. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. No, I've said this. You've heard me say this probably more than once. The NBA is unlike any other pro sports league in the world because I don't believe that there's no other league where you can get by on talent alone the way you can with the NBA.
Yeah.
Which leads me to question, well, who's really a good coach and who's really not?
Yeah.
And how much does coaching really matter? I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. Obviously, it matters to a certain degree. But Eric Spoelstra is one of probably, I would say, a handful of coaches in the league where I'm like, that's a good coach. He's definitely one of them. Steve Kerr, I mean, how people are going to be like, well, Steve Kerr's won multiple championships, and that's got to be the barometer and how you measure, success. And I would agree. But, is it his fault that he's got 3 Hall of Famers on his team? No, it's not. But how much am I really measuring Steve Kerr if Steve Kerr didn't have the talent that he had? I don't know. I know that's an unfair question. I know we'll never know that, but
okay.
That's safe with me.
All right, let's dive into college football. Is back now because media days have happened. We were at Big 12 media days last week, obviously. SEC media day starts today, and I have to address something, and we'll talk about it again much more at length on the main show. But, Pierre, I have to get something off my chest. I did a thing about realignment pornography, about a month ago, right?
It's been about a month, yeah.
About a month ago. I'll send it to you. Just on how these things happen. Okay, look, and I'm going to say that John Kurtz and Jason Scheer, friends of ours, great stuff. They're passing along things they have said. They have not reported that FSU and Clemson are coming to the Big 12. I will tell you right now that the Big 12 is option 3, and they have not even gotten the opportunity to broach options 1 and 2 yet because they're still in court. So anyone and everyone who tells you that Florida State and Clemson are coming to the Big 12 is not right. They are speculating, and Jason Scheer said just people feel confident it's going to be happening. Ross Dellinger came on and said what he told John Kurtz was speculation. So anything you hear about Florida State and Clemson is not even close to fruition yet because they're still fighting in court. And they don't know how much it's going to cost. They don't know what the TV deal is going to be when they get out. They don't know what's going to happen. Plan A is get in the Big Ten or the SEC. Plan B is shake some of the dead weight off the ACC, reform a smaller conference, and make more money that way. And plan C is join the Big 12. And plan C is the nuclear option, the absolute nuclear option. There is no way that Florida State and Clemson are doing all this so that they can play games against TCU. Bottom line, I don't mean to just knock TCU, but that's not what they want. That's not where they're living right now. Now, if they have to do that, that's better if they make more money. But they're doing this to close the gap between $40 million and $80 to $90 million. So how does that happen? I don't know, but it certainly won't happen by joining the Big 12 because the Big 12 also would like to close that gap. They would be jumping from one league who makes about the ACC and Big 12 are about the same. ACC technically makes more right now, but it's a pretty nominal difference. FSU and Clemson are not doing this to wind up in the Big 12. And to say that they've made any kind of final decision yet is reckless and silly and realignment porn, and don't bleeping buy it. It's not even close to happening yet. Now, these things can happen fast once legal things fall down, like once you get past certain parts of the legal wrangling. But right now, they're fighting over which legal case will take the most precedent in what state over Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina. So right now, we don't even know which state is going to win on the final decision. All of the states have said they have jurisdiction over certain parts of it. So the ACC has wins, Florida State has wins, Clemson has wins. So right now, it's a big legal cluster screw, and we don't know. So saying that any deal's been made with the Big 12 or they expect to join the Big 12 next year is so ridiculously premature. I can't even stomach it, and it sends me into a blind rage.
How do you feel? You feel better?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad that you brought up Jason Scheer because, I saw the tweet. Like you mentioned, he's a friend of your show, and I'm not just trying to disparage anything he has to say or any reporting that he's out there making because he's certainly close to the situation, a hell of a lot closer than I am. But given what you just said, Paul, with the way that Jason Scheer reported, or I should say at very least indicated that Florida State and Clemson could be playing in the Big 12 as soon as the following season. That he made it sound like, this thing sounds like it could be pretty close. And I'm with you. I said, is it? We do have a long legal process that we have to go through still to this day. And like you just said, I'm not convinced whatsoever that the SEC is still not option number one for Florida State and Clemson if they get through the legal process and have the option to do so.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not, again, outside the realm of possibility, but again, it's the third choice. And to pretend coming off Big 12 Media Days, everybody hears Brett Yormark. Look, Greg Sankey addressed it today. He said, look, I'm not recruiting, but I keep tabs on it. And here's the thing. The SEC and Big 10 have not said anything. Anything you say about the Big 10 or SEC wouldn't be interested, well, they can't be right now. They can't be. But you're telling me if this is about brands, and this is about brands, that Florida State and Clemson and potentially North Carolina and Miami could be in the water, and brand-wise, that's not going to be interesting to them, shut up. So anything you hear about the Big Ten and SEC not being interested and the Big 12 being the only landing spot is pure speculation. And there's nothing to be reported on it until we know how much money Florida State and Clemson are going to have to give the ACC on the way out the door. So once we know that, then we can start connecting dots to where they might land, because then there will be an actual opportunity for a bidding process between the conferences. We'll also know how much money that they have through, private equity that might be coming up to cover all these things. But until they know how much money they need to ask for from private equity or from the university, or how much of a gap they need to bridge over the next decade, of which that television contract is going to exist between the FSU and between the ACC and ESPN, unless ESPN opts out of the deal in a couple years, which to me doesn't seem likely, considering they've got a pretty good thing going with the ACC, is how much they have to pay given the content that they get back. Like, until any of that stuff happens, stop with realignment porn. It's not like you're just wish casting at this point. And again, the Big 12 is the least likely scenario for them. And they're not going to do that until they absolutely have to. And I really don't think that that's going to be the case. And the other two conferences won't comment on it because there's no reason for them to. They've got great things going on. They can just wait for the ACC to fall apart and go, okay, thank you for whatever teams that we want. That's what's going to happen.
I can certainly understand your frustration. I'm sure a lot of people out there, especially the fans, and you can consider me as one of these people who are just starting to feel a little impatient, because part of me is just saying, look, take the legal process out of it. I know we have to go through the legal process, but part of me is just saying, let's just get to the point, shall we? Can we finally just get to the point where the Big Ten and the SEC eventually, over the course of time, swallow everybody up, and we have at least two mega conferences that are just left that have adopted 75 schools each, and we somehow reach some, because that's what it feels like it's headed towards. I mean, the legal process is moving on. We are moving on with this process with Florida State and Clemson. Their cases are going to be heard, and I would have to imagine that is just that. I mean, it's a great sign for the schools. Now, granted, a lot of things can still happen, but I don't see a scenario in which Florida State and Clemson don't get their way eventually. I don't see a scenario in which that happens.
Yeah. I mean, look, bottom line, they're doing this to leave. And look, Conundrum asked me sources. I don't have sources. I have eyeballs. I have been reporting on this stuff for the last couple of years. And I'm just telling you that right now it doesn't make sense. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm not saying, I have no idea. It might happen. But I'm telling you that nobody can report this right now. And anybody who's reporting it right now is full of crap. And Jason Scheer and John Kurtz are not reporting it. They're relaying speculation that they've heard from sources. They're not reporting it. That is, again, the word is speculation. Anything we have right now is speculation because they're still in court. And anything the Big Ten and SEC say, you cannot believe them. And them saying, people saying they don't want them, they don't even have to entertain it until it's a possibility. So you don't know if they don't want them or not. So anything, the Big Ten only wants AAU schools and Clemson and Florida State aren't. Well, guess what? They've never had the opportunity to have Clemson and Florida State in their league. So the little AAU, hey, we only take, smarty pants schools thing will be out the door, because that doesn't mean anything anymore. Because if that was the case, Stanford and Cal wouldn't have to lick the ACC's butthole to get in the league. So let's just be real about this, because Stanford and Cal, especially Stanford, but both those schools academically can run circles around most.
No question. I mean, let me ask you this question though. After all of that, who are you really mad at? Who are you mad at the most? That's what I want to know. Who are you mad at the most?
Me?
Yeah.
Idiots.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I keep saying this we keep saying this on the show. We are telling you how to approach this. Don't just go grab everything. There is not a map, and I will yell however the damn much I want to, by the way. I'm just saying, this is ridiculous. Stop. I know you want it so bad. They want it so bad because the realignment people, it's the only drug that feeds them. But it's going to happen we don't know where, but to say that like anybody knows anything for sure about this is ridiculous, because Florida State and Clemson have no idea right now how, like, when or how this is going to end. They have no idea.
They don't. And I think I would, I don't know. I'm not going to try to speak for you, but I would say, speaking for somebody in the media world, and I think you probably would agree with me on this, in the world of college sports too, where it's such a rabid fan base and people want new information all the time. I mean, at a rate that I don't really see as much in the pro world. There's so many different bloggers and websites and fan groups and message boards, and it's almost impossible to keep up with. I'm not gonna say almost impossible. It is impossible to keep up with, and it is impossible to really know who's going to tweet out what little tidbit of information that might be misconstrued, or might be taken as a little nugget and run away with it to think that, oh, this really could be something like Florida State and Clemson could be in the Big 12 in 2025. That, it's so hard to kind of put the clamps on that. It's so hard to ask the fans to wait for the legal process because of all of this information that seems to come out, these little nuggets that keep coming out more and more and more, that they just want to jump to a conclusion. And it's hard for me to blame them. It's hard for me to blame the fans and the news consumers. It's hard for me to blame them because you have so many little pieces and so many little nuggets coming from left and right, so many different media outlets. At this point, it's like, well, who am I to believe? And why should I have to be patient? Because this person who's got some cred, because they've got 30,000 followers on Twitter, they must have some cred, that they just told me that this could be a reality in 2025. So why wouldn't I be led to believe that? And why should I be patient and wait for the legal process to play out? I almost feel bad for the consumers. I really do.
Yeah. And look, here's what I'll tell you. And this is what I said in the video. And when I send it to you, I'm sure you'll agree with me. Okay. We can have confidential sources on a story, right, that we're reporting that we know to be factual. The thing is, between our confidential sources, the story being reported and the story being confirmed, you have to have somebody who can on the record confirm it, right?
Correct.
So when you hear people say the word, my sources are telling me, okay, most of them don't have sources. They're making that up. You have to be able to, like Peter, you could be like, I've got a source that tells me the Twins are going to make a trade for this. Then you can report that knowing that, all right, this is whoever your source is knowing, you're a reporter, you have to be right. Like you can't report it because they told you, yes, just don't say my name yet because it's going to be official in 2 hours. So then 2 hours from then, what you do is you have like multiple sources confirming this and multiple reporters confirming it. So everybody's right and not out there. But when it comes to realignment, there's a lot of people out there who are like, well, sources are this and this is this. And they take this one tweet and they say sources. Well, that's not how this works. Like eventually you can be off the record for a little while, but eventually you have to be on the record.
Eventually, yes. And I would more to that point too. I would say if you get for all of you young aspiring journalists out there, if you have one source that doesn't want to go on the record, I would even say before you, and it's a pretty good source, you feel pretty good about it. I would say even if you don't get somebody else on the record, if you get backed by a second source that is close to the situation that also doesn't want to go on record, but essentially gives you a wink and a nod that, don't, like you just said, don't use my name or we can't report this yet, but essentially gives you'll know it, a wink and a nudge. I would go with it then. I would go with it then.
But and this is where, look, Jason Scheer was out in front of it last year with the Pack. And so I'm not saying he's not his source is not telling him that they're wrong about feeling confident about FSU and Clemson being there. Because look, right now, the only place that FSU and Clemson could realistically go that, will absolutely take them for sure would be the Big 12. Like, there's no doubt that if FSU and Clemson called up Brett Yormark and said, hey, let's work something out, that Brett Yormark is gonna tell them, like, no, we're good with who we are. He'll be thrilled with that. But the bottom line is that's a phone call they're going to make as the nuclear option, not what's going to happen in a year. This lawsuit could still be dragging out next year because the ACC does not want this lawsuit to get resolved anytime soon, because the minute it gets resolved, that opens the door not just for Florida State and Clemson, but for anybody else who feels like they have better financial opportunities to leave. So the ACC is not motivated at all. Their four corners run out the clock. Like, they're trying to slow this down. Basically, and to use a football metaphor, they are running right into the middle of the line, and they're trying to do 3 yards in a cloud of dust until the clock runs out. That's what they're doing. They don't want to give the ball back to them. That's not what's going to happen. So if they have their way. And nothing legally has been a huge win or loss for either side. It's just the process that plays out. Okay, we don't agree with this argument. We agree with this one. Okay, this is here. There's 3 cases right now in 3 different states. This is going to get a little more complicated before it gets simple. And so saying that FSU and Clemson in the Big 12 next year is outside reality at this point. It's just not reality.
Certainly feels that way. And as we both know, the legal process, no matter whatever the case is, the legal process does take time. And in this case, with so many millions and millions of dollars and so many jobs and people's livelihoods at stake, I think this is going to take a long time. You're right. This could be in court by this time next year. It could very well still be in court. There's no reason to believe that why it wouldn't, or why I should say why there wouldn't be the thought that it possibly could still be in court next year. There's no reason not to think it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Nebraska is not an AAU school. They're in the Big Ten. They're trying to get their AAU status back. Something happened about the medical school not being actually in Lincoln. It's in Omaha. And that's a weird AAU rule. Florida State has applied, like they're in the process of doing it. But it's not like something like you apply for it and you pay the $9.95 fee and then they're like, all right, you've been approved for this. It's more of like a long process. And all the school that like 10 schools just got in this year. Like USF was one of them, Arizona State, Miami, like they all got in to the AAU. But it was like years long process of them going like, well, here's how we've done. Here's the research we've done. Here's the improvements we've made. Look at all the new books we have, kind of those kind of things. And then before it is. So it's not that, but yeah, you have to go through all of that. So yeah, they, you have to be like a tier 1 research school first. You have to be this and this and that. So they're going through that process. So, but those things right now to me, when it comes to the Big Ten, that's all just like, oh, this is a way I can make this narrative work, where the last round of realignment has shown us that it's about television eyeballs and it's about that. And where I think the SEC comes in is they've decided they want to be a super regional conference and have that, which is why FSU, Clemson, North Carolina makes sense for them, because if they wanted to grab any of those schools, it's not going to be, and the whole like, well, Florida wouldn't want them in. Well, A&M certainly didn't want Texas. This is about making the league better, and that's what it is. And so if anything can make the league better, they will. And don't think Greg Sankey is not hell-bent on world domination. And if he can – look, he just took a chunk of the ACC. Here's what he managed to do just by doing television interviews. He took a chunk out of the ACC just by doing TV interviews and made a team not go to the playoff, all right? What if he could destroy a whole conference? You don't think he would love to destroy a whole conference? Come on. Now, that's speculation on my part. That's me putting that on him. But I feel like if he could take the spine out of a conference and suck the marrow, he would do that.
I saw part of what Greg Sankey had to say today, and I understand that he wasn't the commissioner of the SEC back in 2012 when Texas A&M joined the conference. But I mean, one of the things that he said today was, we're reuniting the oldest college football rivals. We're reuniting some of these great rivalries in college football. And I was like, didn't your conference just break up one of the best sports rivalries in the history of the country? Like just a little over a decade ago? Like I said, I know you're not the commissioner. You weren't the commissioner at the time. But the arrogance to me in just saying that, he didn't name Texas and Texas A&M specifically, but I'm just like, I have to imagine that's who he's talking about. And I'm like, but didn't you break that up not like 12 years ago?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, now he brought it back. So A&M and Texas and Oklahoma and Texas being in the conference and those being massively huge rivalries only speaks to the fact that putting Clemson and South Carolina together as a conference game and Florida and Florida State together as a conference game would only be better in the SEC if he can get those things done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're talking like, if you're going to tell me that the last week in the regular season in November is going to have SEC games that are A&M and Texas, Florida and Florida State, Clemson, South Carolina, the Egg Bowl, the Iron Bowl, like that's where LSU and Arkansas is probably going to live, right, Garrett?
Probably so.
Yeah, LSU and Arkansas, which is a long, long rivalry. Or they'll find or that might wind up being like all those games are going to be great. Like that game, like that Thanksgiving weekend in the SEC is going to be able to shred most everybody else.
No doubt.
You're telling me he's not going to want to do that to where like, oh, all these games are right here on the ESPN and ABC family of networks. We're right here. You know what those other conferences have? Diddly squat. We have all the games you want to watch.
Ohio State, Michigan's the only game. Ohio State, Michigan's the only game.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure USC and UCLA and all these like other things. I mean, but like, it's like comparatively, like,
right,
you're gonna have the game on Fox. No, there's probably Notre Dame and USC. Like they'll probably move that to then because of ratings. Like that might get later in the season. But there's not anything else that's going to be going on that would compare to what rivalry weekend will be in the SEC that on Thanksgiving week with so many playoff implications. Like I don't even know the television number. I don't even know what it would be if you say. Not only that, there's playoff implications on these huge rivalry games of these teams that have baked in 100 years of hatred to each other. Come on. It's a
perfect weekend for it, too.
Yeah.
Weekend.
Yeah.
You hate your in-laws that are coming over already. I mean, you might as well fight some more on who's your favorite team on Friday and Saturday.
Honestly, if they get that done, the other leagues are going to have to be like, look, we have good games over here. Please watch. Like, please. We'll play on Wednesday. Please just watch the game.
Oh,
it's going to be so good. So, anyway, when we come back, let's talk a little bit about SEC Media Days and the crazy nonsense orgy that it becomes. But compared to the others, Big 12 Media Days, like I look at videos, and we were going to try to be at SEC Media Days, and the SEC has at this point denied us, but they're going to get a request every year from now on. But because it's just up the road in Dallas.
Sure.
But it's kind of crazy that they break everything up over 4 days and how much of a zoo it is to where they can't even, like they couldn't even give us 5-6 credentials to go up there because it's that much of a zoo. We'll talk about that next. This is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back. Paul Catalina, Pierre Nugent, Fox 9, Minneapolis. How's the weather in Minneapolis right now?
Gloomy, humid, off and on showers. And this has been the rainiest summer I've ever experienced in my entire life. But right now I'm looking outside. It's overcast for Shane. It looks like it's going to rain. No rain yet. but that pool out there is staring me right in the face. But I don't know if we're going to make it there this afternoon. We'll see.
Okay. Well, I hope you do. I hope that you do.
That's where I'm at my best. That's where I'm at my best. Right by the pool.
Yeah.
That's where I do some of my best work.
When are me and you? When are the couple? We're gonna take a couples trip. We need to take a couples trip.
We can absolutely make that happen.
We should do that, Pierre. I've not seen you in person in 6 years now. 6 years.
Can you believe it's been that long? It's been way too long for that.
I can't. There's lots that happened in the world since that point.
A lot. Yes, a lot.
A lot's happened. SEC Media Days is today. Starts today, so the next 4 days. They do 4 teams a day, which I actually really like. I mean, it would have been really nice had the Big 12 done the same thing.
Yup.
And maybe one day that they will. But I do think they like the crowd that's there because again, there's not and obviously there's not as much media that covers the Big 12, although there's a lot that covers the SEC. Like there's just so many different things, and it gets to be this big, gigantic thing. So, oh shoot, I've been trying to create a Google account, and I realized I put the birthday as the first day of this station.
Did you do the European way?
Oh no, we did it. I said what's the birth date? And I just put April 6, 2020, which is the first day we did a show. And then Google's like, well, you got to create a child account. So I've got to go back and change the birthday on this.
How many teams a day go in the Big 12?
8.
8. That's what I thought. Okay. 8.
Yeah.
That is a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, 8. So we got, let's see, we had Aranda, Fritz, Whittingham, Sataki,
Scott Satterfield.
I want to say we had 10 of the 16 coaches.
Kyle Whittingham. Yeah.
Wow. So we had 10 of the 16 coaches. We didn't. Wow. I can tell you who we didn't get. We didn't get Gus Malzahn, who we've had many times before. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason we didn't get him is we just had him like 6 weeks ago. We didn't get Neil Brown, who I just think that didn't line up. We didn't get Mike Gundy, who we'll never get. Literally, we'll never get Mike Gundy. Not for a lack of wanting to talk to Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy talks to about 5 media outlets, and that's it. Right. He's not going to do it. We could have gotten players. But we just didn't cross paths with Oklahoma State that much that day. Right. We didn't get Dion, and we didn't get Matt Campbell. Mm-hmm. I think we had, so that would be 11. I think so we had 10 or 11 coaches, I want to say. So,
for the show next week, send me a text to remind me, because Fox, the good people at Fox, when Colorado was all the craze through the first 3 weeks of the college football season last year, they sent me a Coach Prime cowboy hat, Coach Prime sunglasses, and a Coach Prime whistle. And I will bring that on the show next week, just because Coach Prime dissed you. I will bring it on the show next week and wear it on the show and do the show with it on next week.
Okay. Yes. I'm sorry they didn't send you any blenders.
No. Yeah. Seriously. This is about as close to Coach Prime as you're going to get is me. Unfortunately, you're stuck with me wearing the hat and the sunglasses.
Yeah. So, okay, great. I'm looking forward to that. You can put some sunglasses on if you want.
I love the reaction too. Oh, good. That's good. Yeah, that's good. That'll be a time.
That was very Jerry Seinfeld. Oh, good. Yeah. Good. Yeah. I like that. Like that idea. Good. Oh, good. That's a shame. That's a shame. Pierre, who do you think do you think there's an underrated team in the SEC right now? Because it's really hard to say that about SEC teams, because even their bad ones are a little bit overrated.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really tough question. In terms of underrated, I mean, putting me on the spot on this one here, Paul. Yeah. I mean, how underrated is Kentucky right now?
I don't know, new quarterback. Garrett, would you say there's one that's a little underrated?
Hear me out. And Oklahoma.
Okay, yeah.
Oklahoma is going in, getting slept on because Texas is getting all the hype, despite what Oklahoma has been able to do throughout the history of the Big 12. It's Texas that's been, quote unquote, dominating it all throughout the SEC media days today. I think Oklahoma might be a team that's getting slept on this coming into there this year. I think you can make a case for the Sooners.
Yeah, I think so. Look, Jackson Arnold is an exciting young quarterback, so they've got a lot to prove. Texas spent the time building depth that Oklahoma would have had they not had a coaching change. If Lincoln Riley doesn't leave, then they've got that depth, and people are like, oh my God.
Except on defense, they wouldn't have it on defense.
Yeah, they wouldn't have it on defense because they don't. Like he's just now starting to realize that that's actually the other part of football. It's occurred to Lincoln Riley that oh crap, we should tackle.
Did you see Paul Feinbaum call him not really call him a loser, but call him a loser on television this morning?
Oh, God, no.
Paul Feinbaum essentially called Lincoln Riley a loser on television this morning, which I thought to be very interesting because, technically, I mean, he hasn't done anything of prominence since joining SC. But I'm not here to breathe down his neck, but I've always found Feinbaum to be a very odd fellow. I don't really understand what his role is in terms of the media world and why You
ever see Pulp Fiction?
I have.
Okay. So like in the middle of the movie, when Bruce Willis and Ving Rhames get kidnapped.
Yeah.
Right? Or Bruce Willis saves him, but Ving Rhames gets kidnapped.
Okay.
And there's that dude in the corner.
Yeah.
That's Paul Feinbaum for the SEC.
Yeah.
That's who he is. That's him. That's him. That's his role.
I'll still never forget, seeing how he reacted to some Baylor fans when Baylor went up to Stillwater for College Game Day. You remember you and I were up there, Paul. I think when Baylor was like 9-0 going into that game or something like that. It was the primetime game of Saturday night College Game Day, and just how he turned over to fans and just essentially told them Baylor was nothing, and he even did the pokes sign. He even gave him a little pow in front of Baylor. I saw it with my own eyes.
Here's the thing: is that night? Actually, I wasn't there. I was Smokey and Craig were there. That was Bryce Petty tripping over the 7-yard line, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, he wound up being right about Oklahoma State that night.
Yeah, he was,
because they won, and because Stillwater it's near impossible to win there when the Pokes are to win in Stillwater, it has to be a tragically bad year. It really does. The wheels have to fall off. Otherwise, you're probably not winning there.
It was freezing there that night too. I think it was like 22 degrees. It might have been 26 degrees at kickoff or whatever. It was freezing there that night. That was just a grueling game to be out there for.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that. But he does. I mean, again, and that's his thing. Is he's a shill for the SEC,
right?
And I just upgraded him from Gimp to shill, but
I would like to go back to your question because I agree with Garrett. If somebody would have asked me, if you would have asked me who I think the most overrated team going into in the SEC this year, I would have absolutely said Texas, 100%. I feel like not that they don't have talent, and not that of course they don't have ability, and plenty to build off of what they had last year. Texas would have been my guess, not my guess, but my answer, only because I'm just so used to them falling short of expectations of where they believe they are in the terms of hierarchy, in terms of not just college football, but in college athletics in general. But I think Garrett had a great answer with Oklahoma. I think that's spot on.
Look, Oklahoma's schedule though is really tough.
It's brutal. Yeah,
it's brutal. So that leads to be underrated. Like, okay, well, they're not going to win this one, not going to win this one. Well, if they surprise,
they could disrupt though.
But if Lincoln Riley was still the head coach at Oklahoma, they would have been rolling in with a lot more momentum than Oklahoma is right now. And that's not Brent Venables' fault. Like he gets to take over a job, right when the transfer portal is what it is and all that, and all, Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley leave. There were some other key guys that left, but the fact that you lost Caleb Williams too just put you behind the 8 ball in a way that nobody else really had to deal with. They made a coaching change that year. Like, oh, well, there goes the Heisman Trophy winner. All right, well, crap. What are you going to do? So, I think if Brent Venables, and look, he took a big step forward last year. They were playing with his attitude. They certainly were. They just didn't have the depth that a team like Texas does, and they beat Texas. Right. Texas built that depth. They just didn't have out and out, they were not going to beat people every week like they were used to, but they were still a pretty darn good team. I never thought for a second that they were going to win Bedlam, the last Bedlam. I just never did, just because, man, they could have played that game in any kind of conditions at any stadium in the world. They could have played it in Siberia, and Oklahoma State was going to make sure they were coming away with that one. Like, if we're not going to play this game again, especially since Oklahoma State hasn't won that many of Bedlam. I mean, it is one of the more lopsided rivalries in rivalries. They were going to make it count on the way out the door. So, yeah, I think Oklahoma has a really good shot at surprising some people this year. But let me run through the schedule real quick. And there were years in the Big 12 where you'd be like, you go through, all 12 games, and you'd be like, oh, they got a couple there that are going to be landmines. And then there's going to be a team. There's always a team that even the elite teams don't expect to play them as hard as they do, that does, and they wind up just being able to make that one play at the end that makes them better because they're loaded and the other guys are not. But Oklahoma this year, Houston would like to get them on a better year. But look, Tulane would like to get him with a consistent coaching staff and not a new coaching staff. But Tennessee, Auburn on the road, not going to be easy. I don't care, what you're talking about. Texas, South Carolina are going to be tough, and Shane Beamer kind of knows Oklahoma a little bit because he coached there. At Ole Miss, going to be really tough. Of course, the Maine Black Bears in November. Gotta watch out for those Maine Black Bears. At Missouri. And here's their last three: at Missouri, Alabama, at LSU. So
good luck.
Although, look, I'll tell you, if Oklahoma LSU can be one of those games that's at that super rivalry weekend, even though it's not real, that would be manufactured. I have a feeling they get really tired of each other really quick.
I think they would.
I don't think LSU and Oklahoma are going to be like, oh, we don't really care about each other. I think once that one gets going, it's going to get pretty vicious between those two fan bases. But yeah, they're down the stretch. Essentially, I'll just say once you get from the Red River on down, there's only 2 games where they're for sure going to be favored. And I would say that at this point, it's Maine and South Carolina. Who knows whether it's going to be. They've got a tough road to hoe, but again, that's where underrated teams come in. If they start winning some of these games, people are like, oh, well, Brent there's got it going.
Yeah, no, absolutely, no doubt about it. There was, in terms of how the layout is in terms of this conference and who's going to kind of be good and who's maybe not going to be good. Paul, I said this is about as hard to predict, I think, for me. I mean, obviously everybody's going to point to Georgia, and I certainly understand, why they're going to do that. Alabama still, with the new coaching staff, what is Alabama going to be? I would certainly love to know. But, in terms of Georgia and Alabama, I don't think it's a slam dunk that it's going to be Georgia and Alabama, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's adding Texas and Oklahoma into the fold. Yeah, there's so much talent and there's so much what ifs that can happen. Injuries are such a big part of the game too. And let's not forget that Alabama was a freak play away from probably not being in the Final Four down in Auburn last year too. So there's no slam dunk to me. I know Georgia's going to be the front runner. I'm fine with Georgia being the front runner, but there's no runaway horse here in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. There certainly isn't in that. All right, Pierre, we have about 5 or so minutes left in the show, and I'm going to veer off the path to talk about something you and I enjoy thoroughly, and that is Wednesday, a new season of Big Brother starts.
Wait, I have to be honest. Here. I've never seen Big Brother.
Oh, I thought you liked Big Brother.
No, yeah, I'm strictly Amazing Race.
And the challenge.
And the challenge.
Okay.
I haven't yet to see an episode of Big Brother. And actually, as a matter of fact, in terms of Big Brother, when I haven't watched an actual episode, but I've kind of peeked in here and there. Yeah. The concept has never really, I've never fully understood it. Do people just talk their way into being a winner?
Well, most of the time. Now, there's competitions, right? Head of household and a veto and all these other weird things. And they're always throwing random twists out. It's it's like Survivor, but instead of being outside, you're inside. And you have all the Funyuns you'd ever want to eat because they just bring it in, right? Okay. You just can't watch TV and read books and play video games. You kind of have to sit there and,
They've taken away your entertainment. Like, you're essentially in the bunker, so to speak.
Yeah, you're sitting there in this house getting watched 24 hours a day. And I would have thought that would have been really boring. Really boring.
Yeah.
But it is an absolute, like, it is like watching a psychological experiment over and over and over again, because people kind of react like similarly. Like, people, like, they really want to win the $500,000, so they either play the game really hard, really early on, and the people in the house, like, it's very political. They vote him out, and like, oh, we got to get rid of Pierre. Like, he's playing too hard. He's making too many moves. He's got too many alliances. I thought that too until Amanda moved in, and she was a big fan of it. I was like, this show is stupid. Like, what are we doing? And then I watch it, and I'm fascinated by it because there's always one person who's so much smarter than everybody else in the house. Mm-hmm. Like, just like able to move them around. And then there's all these people who just get kind of starstruck by certain things. And then they're like, well, I don't know why I'm out. And you're like, man, you're just so dumb. Just so dumb. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think you would, if you got into a season. What?
Should I get on board?
I think you would enjoy it. Like, and it is the most homogenized one of the shows that we like. I mean, Amazing Race is, it is what it is. There's not a whole lot of controversy. We're watching an actual race,
Right, yeah.
But this one is more like, you can tell there's times where they're like, hey, when we do the talking head segment, make sure you say this. They'll write little bits for them to say.
Yeah, but script in the interviews and in the confessionals, and stuff like that.
People cry a lot for reasons I can't figure out. Like, that's why I like it. People cry a lot, and I'm like, what? Like, I understand you're, like, away from your family. You're hoping you're there for, like, 90 days. It's 3 months. You've got nothing. Like, you've got nothing to do most of the day. Yeah. Until, like, there's, like, a couple days a week where they have, like, competitions. But then the rest of the 5 days of the week, there's not.
Just for you, I'm going to DVR this now, and I'm going to embark on my first ever season of Big Brother. And it's funny that you mentioned in terms of, like, they got to get rid of me. If I was on the show, they'd want to get rid of me because I'm playing too hard. It just reminded me of the backyard poker game that I was at, where I probably came very close. This is probably the closest I've ever come to thinking, thank goodness I didn't have a knife on me, because the way this guy was playing and sucked out on the river in about 20 out of 25 hands, I was this close. I was this close. Just flip it. Oh, you stayed in with a Queen 8 offsuit with just chasing God knows what, and you spiked another spade on the river to make a flush and sucked out on me? I would breed that kind of mentality. That's the same kind of intensive gameplay I would bring to Big Brother. You
sound like Jon Favreau in I Love You, Man. Oh. When Paul Rudd accidentally wins the poker hand.
Right.
That's exactly what you sound like.
Yeah. No, I was like, thank goodness I don't have a sharp object near me, because I probably would have put it through this guy's hand last night if I could have.
Yeah.
I would have been that guy. In fact, in my heart of hearts, for your audience, for all the audience members who think I'm a total lunatic right now, rest assured, I am that guy. Trust me.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Kyle Visser says his wife paid for the 24-hour live stream and watched all the time.
Big Brother?
Yeah. That's some of the better stuff, too, because that's when you see, hey.
I've heard about this. Hey. I have heard about this, yes.
Oh, something's going on. But yeah, my wife, like, honestly, I'll come home on Thursday, and she'll have turned on the live feeds, and it's just going to be people like, oh, really, you're from Denver? Oh, cool. I've been to Denver, like, when they scramble eggs. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then, like, they'll cut to somebody else, and there's just people in the room like, all right, look, here's the deal. You and me are together. All right. I got you 100%. Like, I gotta ask you before we go, in terms of Big Brother, because I know that they've a lot of our favorite challenge players came from Big Brother.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. There's one player in particular that I heard is great in Big Brother that we've only seen her, I believe, in 2 seasons. I don't know if she played in 3 seasons of the challenge, but I thought Davon was fantastic on the challenge, and I hear she's a pretty, she's a juggernaut.
She's good enough. She gets a little out over her skis, but she's good enough. She's good enough.
I might have to backtrack here because I have Paramount on my Paramount Plus account. I might have to backtrack and see some of these old seasons.
You should go and watch Josh's season because your opinion of him will only be solidified.
I despise him.
Yeah, you'll hate him even more. And you need to watch Fessy's season.
Done. Okay.
Like I'm a big Fessy guy now. But you can see
you aren't.
I am. Oh, I like Fessy a lot. Yeah, I like Fessy a lot now. I wasn't at first, but I like him now. He's fun to watch, but watching him from Big Brother on through where he is in the challenge now, to me, was interesting.
Didn't he play college football?
Yeah, he played at Middle Tennessee State.
Oh, he did. That's where he played. Okay, I wasn't sure.
I want to say Middle Tennessee State. I think
See, we bring it all around. We bring it back around here.
Yeah, where did he and Terrell Owens? Terrell Owens was Middle Tennessee State, right?
I think that's right. Yes.
Wherever T played at the same college that T.O. played at.
Was because T.O. was in Chattanooga.
Oh, right? Chattanooga. Chattanooga. That's where it was. Chattanooga. Yeah. So he played not at the same time, obviously, but Fessy has records at Chattanooga. Apparently.
I believe he's a tight end.
He's a tight end.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go find this now. Absolutely. I will. Hey, Dion hat. Big Brother update next week. Everybody tune in. To
all right. Good deal. I want to hear your fresh eyes on it.
Fantastic. I can't wait.
Good deal. All right, that's Pierre. Today, we are loaded on 365 Sports. We've got Matt Brown from Extra Points because today is EA Sports College Football 25 release day. Emery, we've got an hour until you get your copy, right? Emery's an hour away. He's been counting down the seconds. Carter Yates from SEC Media Days. He's with Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Young writer, really good writer. Garrett, have you read any of his stuff yet?
Yeah, I've read a few of his articles.
Oh, man, he's really good. He's really good. I like him. Former Alabama and NFL safety and, of course, Dallas Cowboy. Speaking of Terrell Owens, we've got George Teague, who put Terrell Owens on his back at the Star that day. If you remember this little move. George Teague is the one who ran him down and knocked him over.
He former Dolphin?
What? Yes, he is.
Yeah, George. I was about to say former Dolphin as well.
Yeah, George Teague, friend of the show. New Baylor commit Taz Williams, who is big time. He's from Red Oak High School. This was a get for Baylor. And we normally don't do the recruits, but this one is such a big time one. And he didn't have, on his social media releases, he didn't have Baylor in any of the graphics. So it just kind of came out of nowhere. And especially given what we heard from Dave Aranda last week when he just straight up and down, Craig asked him and he's like, oh, we're paying players. That's how he answered the question. It was
phenomenal.
The best quote ever. And longtime AP college football writer Ralph Russo joins us at 5:25. Plus my top 5 of Golden Boy quarterbacks. The next generation, so to speak. Some have played, some have not, but that's going to be the top 5 today. That's all coming up at 3 o'clock. This is 365 Sports. Pierre, I love you unconditionally.